정부는
The government proposes to hold high-level talks with North Korea on January 9th.
동계
Representatives from the Republic of Korea and the DPRK agreed to high-level talks for the first time in more than 2 years. Hello, I'm Arnold Naidu, and this is The Heat. It came about quite suddenly. In his annual New Year's address, the leader of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, Jong Un, suggested the two countries open a dialogue on easing military tensions and the possibility of the DPRK participating in the upcoming Winter Olympics in the Republic of Korea. Next came an invitation from Seoul, followed by confirmation of a meeting set for January 9th. There is much to talk about. Let's get to our panel right now. Joining us here in Washington is Yonho Kim. He's a senior researcher with the U.S. Korea Institute at Johns Hopkins University. With us from Seoul is the CEO and founder of the Korea Risk Group and North Korea News, Chad O'Carroll. Analyst and commentator Brian Becker focuses on U.S. Korea relations, and also with us is Zhang. He is chief correspondent for Shanghai Wen Hui Daily right here in Washington. Thanks to all of you. Yonho Kim, let me start with you. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea has accepted that invitation from South Korea for official talks. How significant a development is this?
A really big move made by North Korea, because as far as the Moon Jae-in government is concerned, they already made a big proposal to North Korea to have a dialogue with them right after the successful summit meeting with Trump. And then Moon Jae-in, the president, he himself invited North Korea to the Winter Olympics. But North Korea have been very stubborn in terms of not making any response to that proposals. But now, at the beginning of this year, they finally made their huge move by the supreme leader. So I think North Korea will be very serious about making this happen, at least participating in the Olympic Games.
Did it surprise you, Yonho Kim, that this invitation was accepted?
Well, I mean, when you look at the whole situation after it occurred, then you can be, big expert on that. But what I can say to you is, after North Korea's ICBM test, the Hwasong 15, that actually demonstrated that it has a theoretically capability to reach anywhere in the continental U.S. North Korea at the time announced that they completed the rocket weaponry system. So a lot of experts, North Korea experts, expected that there's going to be such a charm offensive made by North Korea in the near future. But not many people expected that Kim Jong Un would make this big, this huge move. So that's a little bit surprising to me.
Okay, let's go to Chad in Seoul. And Chad, this will be the first high-level meeting between these two countries in more than 2 years, as we've just pointed out. What are expectations? What do you think will come out of it?
Well, there seems to be consensus on both sides that something positive should come out of this meeting. And I say that because of the speed in which these talks have crystallized. It was only on Monday, on New Year's Day, when Kim Jong Un offered an invitation to have urgent talks with the South. And by Friday, those talks have been settled. One of the crucial things that's part of this is that within the hours preceding North Korea's acceptance of the talks Friday, the U.S. and South Korea announced that they would no longer be conducting their joint military drills, which usually take place in March and April. They'll be delaying those at least until after the Olympics, which is likely something that really facilitated these talks. In a nutshell, it looks like something may have been going on behind the scenes, because the speed of the talks and the interest in both countries in moving forward in a mutually acceptable manner is quite remarkable. And because of that, it seems that there will be consensus for there to be some progress, predominantly focused on North Korean participation in the Winter Olympics. The big question is, after that, what will be next? The sort of long-standing differences in opinion are very, very likely to re-emerge, even if there is some brief period of respite for the forthcoming Winter Olympics.
Brian, there's been a lot of fiery words that have come out of the White House about the DPRK, about Kim Jong Un. There have been some infantile comments Donald Trump calling him Rocket Man. And the United States has threatened the DPRK on several occasions. But in his New Year's address, Kim Jong Un reminded the United States that he is now the leader of a country that has nuclear weapons. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
The whole of the U.S. mainland is within our nuclear strike range. The nuclear button is always on my table. The U.S. must realize that this is not a threat, but the reality.
Of course, then there was that response from President Trump saying that he has a bigger nuclear arsenal. In fact, he said he has a bigger button. What do you make of all those exchanges?
I love that comment by Donald Trump. It was so statesmanlike that he had an even bigger nuclear button on his desk. But of course, what we saw with Kim Jong Un's speech, and he's revived the tradition of Kim Il-sung, his grandfather, the annual New Year's speech. It's a speech that's brimming with self-confidence. He said in last year's speech, we're in the final stage. This year, he said, we've completed it. In other words, we are, as the other guest said, we have both the missile technology and nuclear technology in place that can strike the heartland of the United States. Says in a very serene way, this is not a threat, it's a reality, you have to deal with it. That does change the relationship of forces. Because how big of a decision would it be for any U.S. leader to go to war against North Korea, realizing that all the dying won't be done over there, as Lindsey Graham callously said would be the case. In other words, all the bleeding will be done in Asia. North Korea is saying, look, we have a nuclear capacity, we have a deterrent capacity, you have to deal with this. And at the same time, in that speech, he went point by point over the self-reliant capabilities of North Korea's economy, demonstrating that even though the sanctions are draconian, North Korea has the capacity and a plan to survive them, and at the same time making this overture to South Korea, which instantaneously was responded to, as the other guests have mentioned, by the South Korean government. So here we are. The United States has been left a little bit on the sidelines. North Korea, I think, has played a weak hand well. The South Korean government really wants to go back and have talks. Moon Jae-in always wanted to do that. And now they're on the way, and now the U.S. is confronted with this choice. Do we become the obstinate, obstacle to forward progress? Do we look on? Or do we say, as Donald Trump says, it's because of me, I did this? In other words, claim victory.